Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am creating a fun layered up die cut card featuring some new products from the Neat and Tangled February 2019 release, and I adore these mini envelopes, especially when they're all kind of layered up together. I think it's such a fun look. I also really love how this release has a little tiny nod to Valentine's Day with a couple of hearts in it, but these products are perfect for use year-round, and I'm going to show you that today. I'm starting out with the male background stamp from Neat and Tangled. This is new for their February release, and I'm stamping it using some Catherine Pooler Twilight ink onto some heavyweight Neenah cardstock, and I'm using my Misty stamping tool to do this. I'm going to inset that cardstock in just a little bit so that I can get edge-to-edge stamping. And I have taken out the black foam piece in my Misty in order to allow me to use this rubber cling mount stamp in the Misty. Now, once I had that stamped, I went ahead and took some water-based markers, and I am coloring these hearts that are on these envelopes in kind of a rainbow pattern. And I'm trying to allow the colors to not be completely linear. In other words, I'm not doing a straight line of pink where it ends and goes into the orange. I'm kind of allowing those to stagger and kind of blend their way down the card. I'm not doing any blending with the markers, but I think it'll kind of make more sense to you as I'm going on and coloring this. Now, this card started out extremely different from where it ended up. This is what I thought I was going to do, and you'll see as I go throughout this card that I don't use this piece on this card at all. And I think it's important as card makers to know that not all card ideas work out from the very beginning, and it's okay to allow your idea and your process to change as you are making your cards. And that's where creativity really sparks, is that if you allow yourself to kind of come out of the boundaries of what you think you're going to do, then you can really kind of get into that creative mode and allow yourself to just go with the flow and just kind of end up where you end up. So I have all the hearts colored in, and now I'm just taking a T1 toner gray marker from Copic, and I'm just kind of adding some shading around the envelopes that are kind of sitting on top of the other envelopes. And I'm just drawing simple lines around this. I'm not blending it out at all. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow to kind of give this background some depth and dimension. Now here's where I start in with my mini envelopes, and I'm starting out with some pink textured cardstock, and I'm die cutting it from that. This die is a part of the Love Notes die set, and it is a fabulous die set that has this mini envelope and some stitched hearts as well, which you can see that Vellum one there. That's from that same die set. And these mini envelopes really come together quickly because the die actually creates the score lines for you. So you just fold on those score lines, and then I'm just keeping it closed with a little liquid glue there. And you can see I have my first little mini envelope. Now, I'm a girl who thinks if 1 is good, then 10 is better. So I'm die cutting it out of some different colors of textured cardstock. And I really like to use the textured cardstock in cases like this because I think it adds a little something to these very simple die cuts. Now you can see I'm actually bending the wrong way on the score line first and then turning it over and folding it the correct direction. I think it's easier to start the fold in the opposite direction. It just kind of helps you find that score line a little bit better, and then kind of flip it over and score it and kind of really crease it into place with a bone folder. Now, as I was going throughout, I liked the colorful envelopes, but I thought maybe this will work better with some white envelopes instead. So I cut out a bunch of white envelopes. This time I'm doing it out of some Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. So once again, I am using some textured cardstock for this to add a little interest to these die cuts. And I'm just really reinforcing those score lines with my bone folder. So now I was like, if I like the white and I like the color, why not mix them together? But this is really where it started to get too much for me with the color on the background and the color on the envelopes. But I knew I loved the idea of all of these mini envelopes kind of clustered together like they were in a big pile of love notes. So I grabbed another piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock and I just started adhering all of these mini envelopes using some foam adhesive. And I'm just kind of staggering them on here. I am just going for it. I'm not thinking too much. I didn't arrange them ahead of time. I'm just going with the flow and allowing this to kind of come together as it will. Now I'm making sure that I have some in front of others and I'm tucking them behind. This blue one, I think I added an extra layer of foam adhesive so it could sit over the top of these. And I'm just making kind of this big pile of mini envelopes here. Now this die cut on its own is really small, but when you cluster these together, you can really make a large focal point for the front of your card. And you're gonna see me fuss with this little kind of grouping, and then I'm looking at it and I'm going, I think it needs one up here and one more down here. So I cut a couple more white envelopes. I didn't like the way the purple was looking, so I went ahead and changed that out to a darker pink. So I have a couple of different color pinks on here, a green and a blue. And then I added those extra white envelopes that I really felt this cluster needed. Like I said, I'm just kind of going with the flow here and just allowing the card to tell me what it needs. The card is not speaking to me. Don't worry. We do not need to call a medical professional for me. I am just using that as an example. I just am kind of feeling out what feels right to me. Now this really felt right, this cluster, and I decided I wanted to add a sentiment to it. And this says, email is good, but letters are better. And it's one long strip. It's from the typed sentiment stamp set. It's new from Neenah Tangled this month. And I'm going to cut it between the words so that I can use it as a stacked sentiment instead, because it was a little too long for this grouping. So I've mounted it on my grid block with those two, making it a 2-line sentiment rather than a single line sentiment. And I am going to gold heat emboss it onto some vellum. So I've prepped the surface of my vellum using a powder tool. I've inked it up in some Versamark ink and stamped it onto the vellum, and then I am just heat setting that with my heat tool. And on the bottom of this vellum, if you look, I've actually already cut out the skinny strips die set from Neenah Tangled for the February release. It has a bunch of fabulous banner shapes in it. I really encourage you to check it out. It just didn't happen to work out for this particular sentiment when I stacked it on itself. So I tucked the little sentiment into one of those envelopes. Then I decided I did not like this on all that white. So I am taking my scissors and I'm kind of undercutting the Neenah Solar White heavyweight cardstock that is providing the base for all of these envelopes. And I'm just cutting all the excess away. And I'm allowing the blade of my scissors to kind of go underneath those envelopes. Since I have these on there with some foam adhesive, this was really easy to do. And now I have this cluster of envelopes that I've placed onto this colorful background, and it still wasn't working for me. I was looking at it, I'm like, it's too much. I'm trying to make this background work. I put a layer of vellum over it thinking that would help me like it more, and I just didn't. So I went ahead and set that colorful background aside, and I grabbed some kind of mint colored cardstock and created a card base. Now this card base was cut to 5.5 by 8.5 and then scored at 4 1/4, and this creates a side folding A2 size note card. And I really love these envelopes on this mint cardstock, and I knew that I was going in the right direction, but I really felt like this mint cardstock needed a little bit of color. So I'm taking that male background stamp, I'm inking it up with some Catherine Pooler Meant to Be ink, and I'm going to stamp it right on top of my card base here. And this really gave the card base a little bit of texture and tied in all those envelopes that I had die cut, and I knew that this was the winning design. Now I wanted to add a little something else to this, so I die cut the stitch hearts from the Love Notes die set out of some vellum, and I'm going to arrange them kind of behind, kind of just tucked behind these envelopes just to add a little bit, another kind of layer to this scene. And I'm just using some tape runner adhesive to adhere them onto my card front. I'm just putting it in places that I know it will be hidden by all of those envelopes so that I don't have some adhesive showing through that vellum. And now because I have this grouping of envelopes on this white cardstock base, I'm just gonna flip it all over, add some tape runner adhesive to that, and add the entire grouping onto my card front. Now I have this other tiny little stitched heart, and I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue right at the tip of that, the bottom tip, and I'm just going to tuck it inside that pink envelope that's on the lower left-hand corner and just kind of having it kind of come out of that envelope. Now I wanted to add some more color to this. I wanted to bring in kind of that rainbow element feeling. So I grabbed these Doodlebug shaped sprinkles. They're like these mini enamel hearts. And I started adding those to that kind of heart cutout that's on the envelope. And I added them in rainbow order. So I'm adding the pink and the orange, yellow, green, blue. I'm going throughout the entire rainbow on the white envelopes. And then on the colored envelopes, I used all pink. And I think this was a fun way to add a little bit of shine to this card and a whole lot of pops of color and really bring in the rainbow element that I was trying to get by coloring in the background before. And that really did satisfy my need for the rainbow element with these envelopes. So that was what I needed. I'm totally obsessed with these stinking little Doodlebug heart-shaped sprinkles. I think they are so much fun, and I think I need to go order a few more little packs of those. They're just a fun little accent for any card. So I had that rainbow background and I thought I might as well make it into a card. So I went ahead and just added a couple of die cuts, a really simple embossed greeting over the top, and one single white envelope with a little enamel heart. And I just layered that entire piece right over the rainbow background, added a little shimmer pin to the envelope and to that love die cut, and that's how I finished off the rainbow background to create a card with that. And I think it's a fun way and a colorful way to say I love you year round. So there you have it, a couple of colorful cards, perfect way to say I love you year round, featuring the brand new February 2019 release from Neenah Tangled. And I absolutely love these mini envelopes. They are like my new obsession. Along with those Doodlebug mini little hearts there, I think they are so much fun. And I love that you guys got to kind of see my creative process in this video, because not every idea that I come up with works. Not every card that I make is a winner. And I think it's really important that we all understand it's a part of the creative process. Failing, or what we consider failing sometimes, is not always a bad thing. It can kind of lead us down a different path and kind of really spark a new creative fire in us. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube, but head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these projects and this process. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my card making and paper crafting video tutorials. Thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you are one of my favorites. Thanks for spending time with me today. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.